Welcome in, Beast. Sinks here, bringing you another Adobe Photoshop tutorial. This tutorial actually is a long time coming. This is one that I haven't done for a while, and it's all about setting up your Photoshop workspace and your tools panel. This is actually the first part of a longer series tutorial piece. This is an introduction to a project that we're doing. But I want to show you around a little bit about, around Photoshop, some of the new features in Photoshop, Photoshop 2021, and how, how we're going to increase your workflow and your efficiency in Photoshop. And for those of you who are new and have never used Photoshop, this is also a great way to get you introduced to the file panels and the tools in Photoshop. So right now I'm in my home screen, and in your home screen you're going to see some of your most recent work, and you can also at the top you're going to see an option for you to browse tutorials. These tutorials come from Adobe directly, not from me. Maybe I'll get there one day. But if you're interested in playing around in some Photoshop type things, learning more, it's a great way to get into that. What I want to show you guys is a new feature that we have now available to you guys, to students, and I think it's really awesome. So you're going to see over here on the left-hand side, you should see a Cloud Documents link, and this will allow you to save your Photoshop projects or Illustrator, whatever that you're working on in Adobe, into a cloud. And this will be great for when you need to access your files and you're going, from one computer to another, or from like even an iPad or a laptop to a desktop. It's going to really increase your workflow and give you access to all your stuff. You can see here I've already created some folders for projects that I've been working on in the past. So you can organize them, create folders and organize them in that way. We'll do that for when we get into the next tutorial when we start our project. So what I want to show you is how to set up your workspace and your toolbar in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the little Photoshop icon up here, and you can do the same. And I'm going to just walk you through how to set up and personalize your workspace. Before I start messing with file panels and things like that, I'm going to go up to Window up here, and then I'm going to go up to Workspace, and then I'm just going to essentially hit Reset Essentials, and that should reset. So I should just see a base workspace essentially, and I'm on Essentials Default. You'll notice that there are a bunch of different, these are all default workspaces, and what we'll be doing is we will be creating a new workspace. But what we're going to do first is we're going to modify this workspace, and then we'll create that workspace and save it first. So just to pull over here, when you're going to see a large window up here in the top with color, swatches, gradients, and patterns. Below you're going to see layers, channels, and paths. And then up here you're going to see a little one that is history. And when you click on the little arrow there, it's going to expand it, and then and click it in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pull this all out just like that, and you notice that if I bring it back in, I can snap it back in place. But I'm going to pull this out, and what I like to do here is start kind of separating some of these things. So I like my properties panel here to be like this. I like my libraries panel to also be separate, so I'm going to pull that out, as well as my adjustments panel. And I'm going to go ahead and leave my color, swatches, gradients, patterns kind of all together there. And I'm going to go ahead and just go and bring this back and then snap it back into place. So now I just have my color, swatches, gradients, patterns, layers. And in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. And I want to go ahead and pull this whole panel out of here. So I'm going to pull this like this. There we go. That's what I want. I want to leave my layers panel down here in the bottom with the channels and paths. And then I'm going to just drop in my swatches, my color gradients and patterns, because these are all kind of fill type options here. And I'm going to do something a little different with that. So I'm going to go ahead and dock this here. And you'll notice that this little guy here, it's just a little icon. If you bring this out, it'll actually make it a little bit larger so you can see the names of this. This might be helpful for you guys as we're starting to organize our panels over here to see what those actually say. When I'm done, I'll go ahead and minimize it back so it's just the icon there. So I don't want to see the whole name. I like to have my properties panel above my layers panel. I'm not going to dock it in there. I'm going to make sure my blue line is right above that panel there. And so I just have my properties window up here, and then I just have my layers panel below. This is just the way I like it. I like to have my layers panel nice and large so I can see all my different layers down in here, because I tend to make a lot of layers in my projects. And then I like to have my properties panel open because it gives me a quick view of what's going on. I don't really use the history panel all that much. Some of you might find it helpful, but I don't need that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and exit out of it. So that did take away my little bar there, but not to worry, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my libraries panel first, and then I'm going to dock that next to just right to the top there, right next to the properties. You'll see the blue line. And what that's going to do is that's going to create that connection. So if I hit the little right arrow to collapse it to icons, that'll give me just the icons there, and it'll bring up just my libraries panel. And then underneath my libraries panel, I want to bring in this whole panel with colors, swatches, gradients, and patterns. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the top bar there and then put it right underneath. So actually that'll put all of those together right in that panel. And when I collapse this, I can see it just like that. And it's going to group them together in that little section. So when I click on panel, it's just going to bring, or the color panel, it's going to bring out my colors, but it's also going to embed those other options in that same window. So it's just really convenient to have it that way. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in my adjustments. I'm going to put this in right below my colors, and I do use adjustments on occasion. Although a lot of times I'll end up using adjustments down in here with like a new layer style or a smart object, but I'm going to just go ahead and leave that there. There are other windows that I find really helpful, other panels that I find really helpful when I'm working in Photoshop. So some of those I'm going to open now. So I'm going to go up to Window here. And I do like to have my brush settings open. I find this to be helpful. So move this out, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop that right into right underneath adjustments. And I want to bring in brushes as well. So put those two together. And we can move these around as we see fit too later on. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out character. And you'll see that character and paragraph are also grouped together. So I'm going to put those together just like that. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to exit out of that. I'm not going to need that. I'm just going to use character and paragraph for now, and then drop that underneath my brush settings. And then let's see if there's anything else that I want in here. I definitely have the gradients already. Let's see. Shapes. We do have a shape tool builder over here, but what's nice about this is this actually kind of shows you your entire library, what you have in your library right now. And I use shapes quite a bit. So I'm going to actually drop this in right underneath right in between my character and brushes. You can put it wherever you like, but so when you click on that, you'll be able to access your shapes really easily. Let's see, the last but not least, let's see if there's anything else that I'd like to bring in. And of course I can always add, stuff later on if I need to, that I find that I use pretty often. But I think for now, I think that'll about do it, especially for the project that we're working on. I think that'll cover it for now. So what I'm going to do at least for the file panels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this so I just see the icons, and that way it'll give me more of a workspace over here in the middle. Now I'm going to address the toolbar over here on the left hand side. I find myself using pretty much a set of tools, like, the most often, and tools that I don't necessarily use as often. And there are also tools that I just use shortcut keys for, rather than clicking on the tool in the toolbar. So what I want to do is create a custom toolbar that has basically the tools that I use the most. And I can always go back in and add tools later if I need to, or create my own a new custom toolbar if I'd like, or bring in a default toolbar if I'm finding that it's just not working out for me. So to edit your toolbar, we're going to go up to the edit menu and select all the way down to toolbar, and this is going to give us a way to edit our toolbar. And we can disable things out of here and move things out. So for instance, I don't necessarily use, although this is a newer feature in Photoshop. There is an artboard tool where you can create multiple artboards. I don't tend to use this in Photoshop, so I'm just gonna move it over to extra tools. And I'm gonna do the same thing with these marquees here. Pull them out over here. And then let's see here. I use all these, the lasso and polygon, although I don't tend to use the polygon as much, nor do I use the magnetic as much as I used to. In fact, I tend to use the object selection tool more often. So I'm actually going to pull these out. And these two options used to be like the way to cut things out in Photoshop back in the day. But now with their Sensei artificial intelligence, their object selection tool is really, really powerful. So, in fact, I'm likely going to pull out the quick selection tool as well, and just tend to use the object selection tool and the magic wand. I generally only use the crop tool here, so I don't tend to use these as well. So I'm going to pull those out. Same thing with the frame tool. I use just exclusively the eyedropper tool. And so I'm just going to pull all these things out. So I'm just simplifying my toolbar essentially. Okay, and then I do use the spot healing brush. And let's see here. Some of these things, like the red eye tool, is really fun with photos. I don't know what the patch tool does, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. I'm going to go ahead and leave the rest there. I don't need that. I don't need that. So I'm just going to have the brush and the pencil tool there. The clone and the pattern can be useful. I don't use the art history brush, so I'm going to pull that out. The eraser tool is handy. We'll go ahead and just leave those the way they are. Gradient, paint bucket tool. I don't do a lot of 3D stuff, so I'm just going to pull that out. And although these are fun sometimes, I don't really use these, the blur or the sharpen tools. I just don't use them. So I'm going to pull these out. And same thing with the dodge and burn. And I'm sure there's great tutorials for how to use these and for some advanced techniques, but for our purposes, we're going to just keep it really simple today. I love the pen tool. I tend to just use shortcut keys for these. So I'm going to pull the freeform and the curvature out because I can just use shortcut keys to do these functions like add, delete points there. So just going to do that. And then I do like the horizontal and vertical. And I don't necessarily need the mask tool though. So I'm going to pull those out. And I'm going to use the path selection, direct selection. That's good. All of the shapes. That's good. Hand tool I don't necessarily need because I can use the space bar for that. So I'm going to pull that out, and then also use shortcut keys for the zoom tool as well. I'm going to go ahead and just hit done. There we go. So now you can see that my menu is a lot simpler over here. It's shorter. It's taken out some of the tools that I don't need. So yeah, now there you have it. And if you ever just need to, get back, if you're missing, you need to see some of these tools, you're wondering where they are. So right underneath the shape tool and kind of in between the switch between the foreground and the background, if you click and hold down that, you'll see all the tools that we put in the extra tools, and just, to hide that. So this is actually the edit toolbar option. So if you're ever looking for those tools that we put into the extra tools and kind of got rid of there, you can bring them back as you see fit. So before I end this, I need to save my workspace. So I'm going to go up to Window and then Workspace and then New Workspace. And I'm going to give this a name. So I'm going to call this Jeremy's Space, or maybe I should say Workspace. And let's see here. My other options here, panel locations will be saved in this workspace. Keyboard shortcuts, menus, and toolbar are optional. I want to make sure I click the toolbar. We didn't adjust any keyboard shortcuts just yet. That might be in another tutorial or menu. So I'm just going to make sure I click the toolbar there and then click save. Okay. Then next I can get started on my project. I'm all set up to be more efficient with my panels and my toolbar.